Welcome from the staff at the Darrell C. Roberts Library on the campus of Dalton State College. By watching this video, you will learn the definition of plagiarism and our campus policy, the different types of plagiarism, and resources available to help you avoid plagiarism. Before we can talk about ways to avoid plagiarism or even the campus policy, we have to understand what constitutes plagiarism. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, to plagiarize means to take and use as one's own the thoughts, writings, or inventions of another person, to copy literary work or ideas improperly without acknowledgement, or to pass off as one's own the thoughts or works of another. Plagiarism is a serious offense and doesn't just occur on college campuses. Here are a few well-known cases of plagiarism. Stephen Ambrose was a well-known historian who published a book about a B-24 crew during World War II. After publication, it was found that he had plagiarized from the book Wings of the Morning by Thomas Childers. The resulting publicity touched off a firestone and led to further accusations that Ambrose had plagiarized numerous other authors as far back as his doctoral dissertation. Jason Blair was a New York Times newspaper reporter who was fired for writing stories from locations he never visited and plagiarizing from other media and news sources. The band Coldplay was sued after the songwriter Joe Satriani filed a case stating that the song Viva La Vida copied the melody of his song. Chris Martin admitted in several interviews that the band had plagiarized the lyrics and melodies of other artists. The DSC Plagiarism policy states that plagiarism is prohibited. Themes, essays, term papers, tests, and other requirements must be the original work of a student. They should not have been previously submitted elsewhere. When direct quotations are used, they must be indicated. Where the ideas of another are incorporated in the paper, they must be appropriately acknowledged. If you are accused of plagiarism, you will be required to appear before the Student Conduct Board. Penalties for plagiarism can include failure of an assignment, failure of the course, possible suspension, probation, or expulsion from Dalton State College. There are different types of plagiarism. First is deliberate, and the other is accidental. Deliberate plagiarism is rewriting from books and articles, or copying, pasting from web pages and other online sources to create what's called a patchwork writing. Some of it's yours and some of it belongs to another author. Another example of deliberate plagiarism is buying, downloading, or borrowing a paper. Accidental plagiarism happens when a student does not know when or how to cite. Perhaps you don't know how to paraphrase or summarize, and often accidental plagiarism results when students do not know what common knowledge is, or they try to recycle one of their own old papers. Most cases of plagiarism are accidental and occur when a student does not know when or how to cite. When you include information from other sources in your paper, presentation, or speech, you must give credit to the original author. This is called citing. A citation tells where the information came from, regardless of whether you quoted or paraphrased, or put it in your own words. Depending on the requirements for your assignment, citations may be included in the text, as the example here, within the paper or speech, or it may be included in a works cited, reference, or bibliography page, as the example is here. If a piece of information is common knowledge, then it is not necessary to cite it. Here are some guidelines to follow. General common knowledge are facts considered to be known by the public. Some examples of common knowledge are dates of historical events, mathematical equations, and birth and death dates of well-known figures. If you can find the same fact or information in 5 or more sources, then you do not need to cite it. However, when in doubt, cite. Instructors may suspect plagiarism if The vocabulary or sentence structure differs widely from other work that's turned in by the student. There are no references or quotations within the paper or presentation. And if there is strange formatting, for instance, if a font size is different from the other font used within the paper. To help prevent plagiarism, professors may require students to upload their papers to a website called turnitin.com. Turnitin.com searches web pages, student papers, and publications and generates an originality report. In the originality report, the sentences, phrases, or paragraphs that are not the student's original work are color-coded and assigned a percentage match to the original source, which is linked. A professor can then view the original source and determine if the student failed to correctly quote, paraphrase, or cite a source. Whether you are writing a paper, giving a speech, or creating a video or visual presentation, there are different ways to include the information from other sources without plagiarizing. If you are giving a speech or presentation, and you include a graph, image, direct quote, or video, then you should place the citation at the bottom of the slide or at the end of the presentation. If you include a quotation, be sure to use quotation marks around the word or phrase. If your assignment requires you to create a video, be sure to include the URLs for the materials that you borrowed from sources such as YouTube. Even if you only use a short clip from a video or film, you must credit the original source. Just as with a PowerPoint presentation or speech, it is a good idea to include citations or credits at the end of your video. You also want to be sure that you use copyright-free images, audio, and music clips in your video if you post them on a web page or in YouTube. You will find links to copyright-free sources in our copyright Lib Guide. Depending on the format, click on the appropriate tab and then look for the copyright-free sources box. The plagiarism policy states that when direct quotations are used, they must be indicated. For a writing assignment, you indicate quotations by placing quotation marks around the words or phrases that are quoted. You also include the author's name and the page number from the source in parentheses after the quotation. This is called in-text or parenthetical citation. You also create a citation in your works cited, reference, or bibliography page at the end of the paper. Let's take a look at a sample research paper that is found at the Purdue University's Writing Lab website. Notice this sentence: this increase accompanied the decrease in rural populations as farmers who preferred trade, transportation, or tinkering to the task of tending crops and animals found great opportunities in this city. There are quotation marks around the direct quote, as you can see here. The author's name is included, as well as the page number. Then, at the end of the paper, there is a citation listed for the source in the works cited page. You should use quotations sparingly in your papers or presentations. Your professors want you to understand and to be able to put the ideas into your own words. Your paper should not be a collection of quotes from other people. So when should you quote? You should quote when you want to add emphasis to a particular source or demonstrate that an expert supports your view. You might also quote when the original author has stated the idea or concept so perfectly that should you change it, the meaning would be lost. If you are quoting more than 4 lines from a source, then you do not include quotation marks, but instead create a block quote. This is done by a block indenting the lines within the paper. Block quotes begin on a new line, are double-spaced, and are indented 1 inch from the margin. Another way to avoid plagiarism is by paraphrasing. Paraphrasing requires you to put the ideas of others into your own words and demonstrates your understanding of a topic. How do you paraphrase? First, carefully read sources and then choose and summarize the material that helps you make a point in your paper or presentation. For example, let's say that you're required to write a persuasive essay. The topic is distracted driving, and you want to demonstrate the need for legislation to prevent texting while driving. After reading this article, you might highlight the following section since it would help you emphasize your viewpoint. Now, think of what your own words would be if you were telling someone who's unfamiliar with your subject what the original source said. Look away from the source and write down the key points in your own words. Here's an example of how you might do this. Record the source, including the page, so that you can credit it easily if you decide to incorporate the material into your paper. When citing material from a book, you will need the following information: the title of the book, the author's name, the editor's name, publisher, place of publication, date of publication, and edition or volume number. You'll find these by starting with the cover of the front book, which usually includes the title, author, and edition number. Inside the front few pages, you will find the publisher, place of publication, copyright, or date of publication, as you'll see in the examples here. Magazine articles are available in different formats. If you're citing an article from a print copy, look on the front cover or the first few pages of the title of the magazine, date of publication, volume and issue number. To find articles on a topic, the results screen will include all of the citation information. The title of the article is highlighted and underlined. The author's names will usually be listed on the first line below the title of the article. Next, you will see the magazine, journal, newspaper, or book title. Following that will be the date of publication, the volume and issue number, and the page numbers on which the article appeared. You will also see the database title. This example does show the name of the database, but if the database you're using does not include the name in this way, simply scroll to the top of the screen, and there you can find the database name and icon. Many of the databases will also generate a citation for you. Simply look for the cite icon and then select the citation style you're required to use for your assignment. We recommend that you double check the citations because they may still have formatting errors. Note cards are a great way to organize all of your citation information for a paper or project. Here are a few examples of the type of information you would include on a source card. For example, this has note cards with direct quotes, paraphrases, or even secondary quotations. This is when someone is quoting another author. You can include at the top the source from which the material came, the quotation, or your paraphrase. You may also include a source number and a citation. Another example shows the citation information at the top, information with the source from the page number, and even a subtopic that might be included in an outline. The most important way to avoid plagiarism is by correctly citing your sources. The library has 3 Lib Guides to assist you: the APA, MLA, and Chicago Turabian style guides. Within each of the guides, you will see tabs that provide more detail on information such as how to format a paper, create citations for specific types of sources, and much more. There's also an example of a research paper. You can use EasyBib to help you create citations, note cards, and even outlines for your class projects. There is an EasyBib Lib Guide that includes video tutorials that will show you step by step how to create notes, bibliographies, and outlines. We also have a Plagiarism Lib Guide. This guide includes helpful tips, games, and tutorials. If you have any questions, call the library at 706-272-4575 or text to 706-225-8927. You can also click on the Ask Us button on the library's webpage or in any of the Lib Guides. Finally, you can stop by and talk with one of the friendly librarians who'll be happy to help you with any of your questions about plagiarism and citations.